All right, so how are you? I'm fine, and why don't you tell me who you are, where you work, and what you do there? Okay. Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to another episode of the Rossifari podcast. So y'all, we are back at New England Aquarium for a second episode this time around. And last week we were talking all about penguins. And so this week we're going to be talking about the pinnipeds that call New England Aquarium home. And right now that involves 5 sea lions and 5 seals, one of whom you heard speaking in the introduction to this episode. And you'll get to hear a lot more of that when we go and visit the seal habitat, which is going to be the second part of the interview. But before we do that, I'm going to be talking to Kristen McMahon and Leonard all about these 10 incredible sea lions, what goes into training them, how relationship building there is such a huge part of what they do, and just so much more. It's a really good time. I like this one a lot. So before we get to it, a quick reminder to make sure that you are following along. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Make sure that you are following on the socials at Rossifari, on TikTok at Rossifari Pod, and all those good things. You can also support the pod for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. But that's enough from me. Let's get to the pinnipeds. So here is my interview with Kristen and Patty from New England Aquarium.
My name is Kristen McMahon. I'm the curator of pinnipeds and penguins, and I have an amazing team of 20 staff that take care of over 50 penguins, 2 species, African penguins and southern rockhopper penguins. And my other half of my staff take care of our amazing pinnipeds, which are our seals and sea lions. So we have 5 Atlantic harbor seals and 5 California sea lions.
And my name is Leonard, and I'm the associate curator of pinnipeds. So I take care of the seals and sea lions that Kristen just spoke about, and I work with a team of 10 on training and providing for the welfare of those animals.
That's fantastic. And today we're here to focus on pinnipeds. And I have to tell you, I'm very excited. So I volunteer at Aquarium of Niagara when I am home, and I am on what we call our MMB team, which is marine mammals and birds. We have seals, sea lions, and we have Humboldt penguins. And so, yeah, so this is some stuff that I know a little bit better than sometimes. And I actually just spent a full week out in Phoenix working on sea lion training at Wildlife World Zoo and Aquarium. And really getting into the minutia of that and learning a lot about that. So I'm really excited to get your perspective on how training works here and how important that is for the pinnipeds and everything. But let's start off just really quickly hitting a little bit about your careers. What brought y'all to here? Because New England Aquarium is quite the high up place to be.
Yeah, well, my career has been pretty interesting and diverse over the years. I always wanted to work with marine mammals, so in college I did a volunteer program at the Dolphin Research Center with California sea lions and bottlenose dolphins, and that was really a fun program to be a part of. And then I did an internship at Mystic Aquarium. I'm originally from Connecticut, so it was real close to home, and worked with all kinds of different species, including fur seals and beluga whales. And from there, I graduated from Colby College, which is in Maine, and went on to work for the Indianapolis Zoo. And I was only there for a year, but it was a really cool rotation because we had polar bears, sea lions, seals, Atlantic bottlenose dolphin, and false killer whales. So it was a really neat experience to have that kind of diversity early on, especially with training and enrichment. And then I spent about 24 years at SeaWorld. I worked at 2 of the parks. About 18 years of that was in leadership there. So 4 years at the Ohio Park, which doesn't even exist anymore. Right. A lot of people don't even remember. But they had pretty much every marine mammal species that you want to work with in human care. And then I moved on to the Orlando Park, where I spent the bulk of my career working as a manager of both the dolphin area and then the killer whale area. And then I wanted to relocate and get closer to home and get close to my parents again. So I moved up here and have been here about 2.5 years and just love working at the New England Aquarium. It's a conservation organization, and it's just a really nice highlight to my career.
Nice. Yeah, I do quite love it here. So what's your story?
My story is much less diverse than Kristen's. I've been a trainer and worked solely at this institution for 20 years. I just hit 20 years last fall.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
I graduated from Providence College, and I had some roommates who were moving here, and I thought, let me see if I can get a job or find an opportunity with the New England Aquarium. So I volunteered for just shy of a year, and then I was hired and never looked back.
Very cool. That's fantastic. Have you bopped around the aquarium, or have you been pinniped?
No, I've been pinniped, but I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of animals within this group, but also outside of it. So our exhibit was under construction. We built the Marine Mammal Center in 2009. And when that exhibit was under construction, we had an opportunity to work with a diverse array of species elsewhere. So we worked with myrtle, our sea turtle. We worked with different kinds of lungfish, turtles, you name it. We trained all different kinds of animals, different frogs. So it was a really great opportunity to try training on a number of species and see what we were able to do. I also had the opportunity to work a little bit more intimately with the penguins at that time. And since then, we've also had a variety of species within our department. So initially, when I started volunteering, we had otters. And then we've had sea lions, we've had northern fur seals, and of course our Atlantic harbor seals.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. Awesome. And of course, thank you for giving a shout out to my girlfriend, Myrtle.
Yeah.
I love her so much, the queen. Yeah, that's very cool. So I guess, the first question that I really want to dive into here is just, I think everyone who listens knows that training is important for all animals, but it is especially important when it comes to intelligent creatures like pinnipeds. And so talk to me about, the thought process behind the training here and like go into details. Tell me how that all goes.
Yeah, we love talking about training. It's one of our favorite topics for sure. We have a proactive behavior management plan here with our mammals. And, as we said, 5 seals, 5 sea lions, and we get a lot of individualized time with them. And the foundation is really relationship building. Patty's got the longevity. She knows the animals so well, and she really coaches her trainers to be building those one-on-one individual relationships with each animal, getting to know them, spending quality time with them. And from there, we're learning all the fundamentals with training with our animals, from positive reinforcement to having them on a variable schedule so they have a lot of variety in their day, a lot of different session types. And we really focus on husbandry training. Fancy word for healthcare. Voluntary participation in that is so important. But the amount of things that they've trained in the last few years with the animals is really amazing. Animals to hold for 12 minutes for an x-ray, voluntary injections for hormone implants, blood setups, sonograms, everything you can think of from a husbandry perspective to make sure that we're providing the animals with the best well-being possible. And so the staff has really taken it to the next level in the last couple of years, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a geriatric population of Atlantic harbor seals. The youngest is 29, the oldest is 39.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow. That is very geriatric.
We have 2 who are celebrating their 40th birthdays this summer, so we're going to make a big deal out of it.
Nice.
And so those animals have lived here their entire lives, and they have a diverse training repertoire, but what's happened in the past couple of years has been really impressive of what we can now offer them. We're even training them to go into a sling. So if we had to move them off the exhibit, we wouldn't have to drop the water and remove them in a cage. We could bring them up on a sling, bring them up on deck or wherever we need to. So it's a calmer experience for everyone. And so it's just, that saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, is not true at all. These animals are really amazing and great at learning new things. It's really about your communication.
Absolutely. That's really cool. And I think it's so important to keep, like, as overall as the AZA and stuff, to keep building and growing and seeing what we can do and stretching the bounds of that training and coming up with novel enrichment and novel training. Mm-hmm. And when I was at Wildlife World Zoo, one of the things that I thought was fascinating was that they do a behavior that is you choose. and they see what their sea lion wants to do. And then if it's something cool or something that makes sense, they put it on an SD. And I've never seen that before personally, and that blew my mind. Like, what an awesome way to make it true, like you were saying, communication with the animals, despite the fact that they don't speak English. We don't speak sea lion or seal. So, I think that is really fascinating.
We actually highlight that in our presentations. We call it innovate. So we give a hand signal where we put our hands up to our shoulders, and it just says, what else? What do you want to do? And the only rule is that the behaviors have to be different from the one in the series before. But to your point, we've had animals introduce brand new behaviors that we never thought of, and they're so proud of it. We can put it in a session, and then they did their own training. So it's really neat. Yeah, no,
that's awesome. Very cool. Those relationships are they're so beautiful, and they're so essential. But I personally think, as someone who's lightly gotten involved in this world now more, it's the most stunning thing to see. It just is. I can't have 20 years. My gosh, I can't even wrap my head around that.
Me neither. I know. It was really nice. So I was recognized within the institution for it, and they put out a little post on our Facebook page, and I was just like, wow, 20 years. I mean, that's just like half of my life, essentially. I've had this opportunity to work here, but I have to say that I've learned a great amount in the past few years. Kristen joined us 3 years ago now.
About, yeah.
And brought a lot of the technique that she had learned over the years to our institution, and the trajectory that our animals have been on since then has been pretty astronomical for everything that we've trained. But, specifically duration training, having an animal stay in one space for whatever the behavior is for a significant period of time. And one example of why it was such a benefit is we had one of our sea lions, Tipper, present with GI distress. Essentially, we knew she had issues historically, and she was on medication for that, but one day it became very acute. And for her trainers, despite how poorly she was feeling, she was willing to lay out for an ultrasound for 8 minutes. And it was only because of this training that we did that. The opposite end of it could have been that we had to drain the water and put her in a squeeze cage and cause even additional stress, but we were able to do it multiple times over the course of a few days. So huge testament to the training that we're doing now.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Tipper's a role model for sure, and some of the training fundamentals that we put into place, but it comes down to relationship and those training skills that the trainers have. And I think, too, it's a testament to all the desensitization work that we're doing with the animals. So when we're training that husbandry or healthcare work, we're always adding layers of desensitization, which is basically bringing in extra people, extra noises, extra stimuli into their environment and reinforcing them for being calm. And then it's really a win-win. The vets can get close to the animals, have their time to do proper diagnostics, and the animals are calm and not having stress or anxiety, as Patty pointed out. And like when we're talking about all the different types of things we train, it's so important too to have cognitive and physical behaviors that we train so they stay physically fit. And the Innovate is a great example of a cognitive, very creative flair that they bring to the training game. So it's really fun to do that with the animals for sure. One of the things I think we're really proud is that we established a training and enrichment committee here about 2 years ago focused on all taxa, because all the animals can be trained and receive enrichment, and enrichment essentially is training. So we wanted to couple those together into one committee that has representatives from across the whole institution, so everybody's bringing their best practice ideas to the table, creativity, innovation, in the benefit of the animals for animal welfare and well-being. So it's a pretty cool committee.
I like that. Now, you did just say a sentence I've never heard phrased quite like that before, which is that you said that enrichment is training. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And our presence is training. As soon as we enter the exhibit, we have reinforcement value because we have those relationships. We used to call it reinforcement history because you pair yourself with primary reinforcement, which is things the animals need to survive, like fish, the things that we feed them. Also air and access to conspecifics of the opposite sex. Those are all primary reinforcers. So as soon as we enter the space, they're getting reinforced. They're anticipating reinforcement. They know fun things are going to happen, whether it's a rub down fish, ice cubes, or a fun playtime session. We want that variety. The same is true of enrichment. Every time you apply enrichment, whether it's toys or interactive play or Jell-O or something kind of really creative like running around the exhibit, you're enriching their environment and you're reinforcing them, and you're going to bring that behavior that they're doing in that state higher. It's going to increase the frequency of that behavior. So it's really important to have the proper placement and timing of enrichment. And also make sure the animals are actually engaged and trained on interacting with the enrichment, that they find it positive. So people just throw toys in the pool and expect them to play with them. It's a training process. And then when you're using that enrichment, it's a great tool to reinforce your animals as well for the behaviors that you want to increase in frequency. So enrichment is training, and we use it that way as a secondary reinforcer. And also, if we walk up to the pool and they're all being socially compatible and doing very desired behaviors, throw the enrichment in and then remove it before they're satiated with it.
Oh, I like that a lot. So a lot of facilities that I go to very much see those as two separate things. And it's exactly what you said. Throw enrichment in the pool and then watch nobody use it. And then after the, minimum needed time, pull it out and change your enrichment. And I can tell you, I've spent, a half hour making a cool enrichment thing out of different stuff, toys, and building it and stuff, and thrown it in for that very purpose. And it's not my favorite.
It's like we check it off on a list, like, okay, we did our enrichment today, but really we want it to be engaging. We want it to create a lot of different things in the animal that they would do naturally in their wild environment: exploration, play, exercise, utilizing their habitat to its fullest. So the enrichment is purposeful and has goals and evaluated.
I like that a lot, like a lot. That's very, very cool. I know you have to duck out of here soon.
At 3 o'clock, we have a penguin interview on geriatric penguins.
Oh, that's fun.
We got a lot of geriatric animals here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. All right. So, somebody had to go be fancy, but Patty, let's chat a little bit more. So, the first thing I want to ask you about, in particular, is 20 years. We're just going to keep circling that for a little, because that's amazing. Obviously, between SSPs and just life happening and stuff, I'm sure you've seen a lot of animals go through and stuff. But what is your longest current relationship with one of these pinnipeds?
Actually, with all 5 of our harbor seals, but the longest I would say in terms of me directly working with an animal would be Reggae. He's our 31-year-old Atlantic harbor seal, and he is the first animal that I ever learned to work with. So one of our past trainers, Paul, taught me a lot about the fundamentals of training, how to work with Reggae in particular, his personality. And at the time, he was 11, which is so crazy to think about, and he is now 31. And so I just feel like I grew up with him at 11. He already knew training. I had to learn it, but he is our best teacher, I have to say. Anyone that comes in that's new to our institution and new to training usually starts working with him first.
That's amazing. That is such a long relationship. And have you noticed, that is not a young harbor seal anymore. Have you noticed changes over the decades, or?
I honestly, they have occasional little old man and old lady bumps that happen from time to time, but that group of 5, we feel like they just have such a zest for life. They still seem just as young as the day that I first started working with them. They've definitely, over time had different health conditions and health changes, but they still seem so vibrant for their age. It's great.
That's actually incredible. I love that. And so what you said that your title was?
Associate Curator.
Okay, cool. So that's a leadership role.
Yes.
And obviously you worked your way into that. Mm-hmm. So how would you define your job now compared to when you started?
My job now is to not feed animals, and our team will always laugh because if you put a bucket in front of me, I will happily feed any animal that you ask me to. But right now it's really to support the team in their growth and learning. And so observing training sessions, helping us rehearse those fundamentals that Kristen talked about, so variable feed schedule, thinking about how we're reinforcing behavior so we get effective change, how we grow behavior, especially from a new behavior that we're trying to build. Just providing that leadership opportunity so that staff have somebody to bounce ideas off of. And, I may have been here for 20 years, but I feel like I always need to improve as both a leader and a mentor and a trainer. And, with Kristen coming on board, I've learned so much that has added to my skill set that now I'm also reminding myself to rehearse on a regular basis. And so I think there's always room to grow in my role. And our manager, Rebecca, who she came in a couple of years ago, she created a mentorship program that I think has been a huge asset to the team as well. So we all have mentees that we work with directly, so that they have consistent messaging. They have one person who's kind of their point person throughout the course of their training, and that really helps grow them in their roles.
That's really cool. I like that a lot. It seems like there's a trend in, as y'all talk about stuff, that the last 3 years have been really different and really a lot of positive growth. Why is that? And can you go into more detail about how things have gotten even better? Because I know things were already amazing here.
Yeah, I mean, our animals have always been well cared for, both by staff and our veterinary team. There was just some different concepts that we didn't always apply in the past. There's one called least reinforcing scenario, which is when you have an animal that responds incorrectly to a behavior that you give them, you want to give them information that, okay, that wasn't quite right. Let's either try again or let's do something else. If you just jump into the next behavior, it doesn't necessarily give them that information. So you just pause for 3 to 5 seconds. It gives them that information. It gives you a chance to reflect on, how can I set this animal up for success? Should I ask for this thing again? Should I move on to something else? I just had a presentation at 2:00 with our male sea lion Farley, and he was getting behaviors incorrect. He just didn't seem to be totally connected in the session to what I was asking for. And it's really important when you get a number of incorrect responses, you evaluate, what does this mean? And I think in the past that wasn't necessarily always part of the repertoire. We would just kind of continue on. And you can see the growth in an animal when you pause. You can see them thinking and you're thinking, and I think it sets them up for success down the road. So Kristen brought a lot of these concepts in that we hadn't previously rehearsed, and now they're really, really effective tools. So especially the variable reinforcement, you can reinforce in a ton of different ways, like the secondaries that she talked about. You just being there, bridging a behavior is reinforcing in and of itself because they have that positive connotation. So you don't have to feed every single behavior, but when you get to a behavior that they really knocked out of the park or that's brand new and you feed them 5 or 10 pieces of fish, that should communicate, holy cow, I really did a great job on that, and you're more likely to have that repeat itself.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's very cool. Do you personally or the team here, and I know it's variable with each animal and depending on what you're seeing, I realize this is way too vague of a question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you have a favorite thing to do to kind of do like I've heard the term reset behavior before, where when you're doing the least reinforcing, that pause, that reset. Do you like to go to one specific thing, or do you really try to change it up and get the vibe of what's going on?
Yeah, I just try and change it up. Okay. I think it's really important not to have one specific behavior that you always go to. So when I pause, for him, for example, I asked him to do a porpoise and he offered his shark behavior in the water. So he came back, I paused, he paused, we looked at each other. He had already had one incorrect behavior earlier in the session. I was like, you know what? I don't think it's worth trialing this again and getting the wrong response. I'm going to move on and do something else, and then I'll come back to it maybe later in the session. And that really sets him up for success, because at the end of the day, his positive relationship with me is the most important thing, not that he porpoises for our guests. While it is very impressive, it's more important that I keep that relationship strong.
No, absolutely. Okay, very cool. And so, let's talk about some individuals here. We've touched on one or two, but sure. Let's start off with the sea lions.
Okay.
And just talk me through who's here.
We have 5. So we have our male, Farley. He joined us along with Gio, one of our females from the Birmingham Zoo, just shy of 2 years ago now. And then we have Tipper. She is 12. She joined us when she was 4 from the Turtleback Zoo. And then we have 2 14-year-olds, Zoe and Sierra. And they're kind of our OGs. They've been here since they were 9 months old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were stranded animals born on the same exact day, but likely not related. And then they joined us when they were 9 months, and they've been here ever since. So.
Okay. And can you tell me anything about any particular, personality quirks or anything like that?
Yeah, Sierra has a resting pose where she sticks her tongue out of her mouth. It kind of looks like she's trying to suckle, and we think that was because she lacked that maternal opportunity when she was little, so she'll often do that as a self-soothing behavior. So you'll see her doing that on exhibit from time to time.
That's adorable.
Yeah, it is pretty cute, especially because she goes right over and does it by the window, so all of the guests get to see it. Farley is just like Mr. Chill. He kind of logs around the exhibit, floats around. He's a pretty easygoing guy. Zoe is the queen of our exhibit, we like to say. She definitely commands her space and likes to have some individual reinforcement in terms of enrichment, so we try to provide her some one-on-one opportunities. Tipper, as Kristen talked about, is really the animal that has grown the most. She came to us as a very nervous animal, very quick to leave us in session or swim quickly around the exhibit. So just maintaining focus with her is really important. Her eyes stick out a little more from the side of her head than the rest, so that's one of our identity characteristics that we use with her. And then Gio, who joined us with Farley, is actually our smallest, but our oldest female. And she is just really amazing to work with in a training session. We actually just added a new factor. We're teaching her to go in a cage. So if we had to transport her, she'd be comfortable. And we just added a new element today. And she got in with very slight hesitation and really impressed me with just the trust that she has in her trainers.
That's awesome. Now, obviously, a lot of that stuff, like you said, is trust, but also, especially when you have a nervous animal, I know that it's really important to build resilience. And so what kind of stuff do you do? I know Kristen talked about it a little bit, but for like resilience training.
I think what we've taught ourselves the most is when those animals reach a state of, whether it's anxiety or distractedness, slow down. Slow your session down. Just reinforce them for making eye contact with you. Just reinforce them for relaxed body posture. Wait till you see their hips settle and their hind flippers low to the ground and reinforce that. Get them calm before challenging them. Now is not a good time to send them on a speed swim around the exhibit or race over the windows to talk to the guests and show them off. It's really about just let's be chill together, let's focus, and then move on. And even in terms of your feeding strategy, in the past for Tipper, because she was so amped, we would be feeding her quickly, trying to reinforce her, yes, this is what we want, here's a whole bunch of fish, but that just added to that anxiety. So slow your feeding pace down, one fish at a time, and get that posture that you want.
Interesting. I really like that. And I love how, one of my favorite things, I say this all the time on here, is that training is about the individual animal as much as we look for species-specific things and think about it that way. It all goes out the window when Bob, decides that that's not who Bob is,
right.
And so end of discussion. Yeah, I think that's really cool. And which, again, goes back to, it's just the ultimate cycle back to, it's the relationships.
Totally, absolutely.
So because of that, I'm curious, what is the policy here or the plan here, call it what you will, when you hire someone new and it's time to start to, you're bringing in a new trainer. How do you build those relationships?
If they're a brand new trainer with no experience, we have a training plan for the first 30 days, the first 60 days, and the first 90 days, and then beyond that, of course, as well. But the first 30 days is just learning the ropes, being around the animals in the exhibit spaces with someone present. Usually at 60 days, they'll start feeding an animal with a trainer present, just learning an individual animal's personality, usually Reggae, like we talked about, because he is such a great teacher himself. And then at 90 days, they might have a little bit more freedom to ask for a number of behaviors. But there's really no set pace. It's really important that we go at the pace of the person and their confidence. We want to make sure that they have really clear criteria for our animals, that they understand how to operate around our spaces. There's things that seem really basic, like we always pick up our animals when they're in the water, that other facilities might do differently. And so it's important that we communicate all of that out effectively, because safety first, right? Yeah. We want to make sure that both the animals and the trainers are really safe in their environment.
No, that's very cool. That makes a lot of sense. And that's something I think a lot of people don't think about is like when a facility brings in a new trainer, it is a long time before they are going to give their first SD. Maybe supervised, yes, maybe with somebody else doing the thing next to them. But it's a heck of an investment, time-wise and everything else to get to that point. Cool. So we've talked through the sea lions a little bit, but like you said, there are also the seals here. So tell me about the Fantastic Five out there.
Well, we've highlighted Reggae quite a bit, but I would say he's our most mellow guy. He's also the largest. He's usually over about 200 pounds. We call him the linebacker of our harbor seals. He has a very large head and a very big brain. He is one of two males we have. We also have a male named Chakotay, and his claim to fame is that he vocalizes. His grandfather was a seal named Hoover who used to vocalize. vocalize. And so Chakotay can actually shape, based on training, some of the vocalizations he makes into words. So he says things that sound similar to "how are you" or "hey," which is really unique.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
That's amazing.
He's gotten quieter as he's gotten older, but when he was younger, he would just vocalize throughout the course of the day. You'd hear him all the way down the plaza. He has a sister in the exhibit, Cayenne, for Cayenne Pepper, because she has black spots on her belly, and she definitely has that Spitfire attitude as well. So she is a lot of fun to work with and always a challenge for training. And then their mom's name is Trumpet. And she also has the dark spots on her belly, so they all have that same feature. And she's one of our oldest, so she'll be turning 40 this summer. And she's also a great teacher. People really love the opportunity to work with her. And then last but not least, we have Amelia. And she is our one-eyed harbor seal. So she had eye irritation for a number of years, and we had ophthalmologists come in and do a number of procedures, and we just couldn't cure it on its own or with medication. And so the best thing to do is remove her eye. And so she's now perfectly healthy, which is great. But you will notice that on exhibit that she has a left eye missing, and she is the oldest of all of our seals. So she is 40. And I think unique thing about her is she will pretend that she can't see you sometimes. So if you ask for a behavior, she'll just look down like, I didn't see that signal. And so we've worked very hard with her training that we know you can see us. And in the past, we might have said, okay, never mind. But now we're going to ask you a little bit more to try and focus and participate.
That is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that. Very cool. And I'm curious, so that exhibit is outside of the aquarium, and it is on the plaza, and it is free, and you can hang out there. And I'm curious what you think the impact of that is.
We're actually doing a really cool study right now with a hydrophone to see what the noise level is in the exhibit from passing boats or from guests outside. I just think that exhibit being at the front of the aquarium is such a great asset to anyone who comes through Boston. We have people who come by regularly when they're walking their dogs or going for a run or on their lunch break. Like, how cool is it to see harbor seals right in your backyard if you happen to live or work here? So I always highlight that for people. You also now have an opportunity to walk on the boardwalk around the rear of the New England Aquarium, and you can see our sea lions from that venue as well. So, if you're at lunch, we feed our animals at 12 and 2 every day at that exhibit, so you can always check it out from outside the building. And then we feed our harbor seals at 11:15 and 3:30, so those training sessions are always open to anyone who happens to be on the plaza. I think our animals are fairly well desensitized to people out there. They do occasionally react if there's a dog that's like really excited. They'll react. We've even seen, sometimes there's we saw one time a plastic bag blowing in the wind, and our harbor seal Cayenne was just enthralled with it. So again, enrichment, right? You want to make it variable. That was certainly very variable for her. But they are, they've lived there a majority of their lives, so they are fairly well desensitized to all the activity that happens around them. And you can see that because they'll haul out at night, and you'll come in at 6:30 in the morning, and they're still just resting calmly on the rocks, which is great to see.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And I think I love that you came at that question from a trainer perspective and from an animal care professional. Like, you were like, oh, this is the impact on our animals. So now I'm going to ask it from the way that I originally meant it. But what impact do you think it has on the public to be able, like you mentioned a little bit, like they get to see it and stuff, but what do you think the impact of that is on the people of Boston and the tourists that come to this area?
I mean, I hear from so many people, oh, you have that exhibit out front. So I think it's a very positive appeal to people, especially if your plan is not to come into the aquarium. You can still come and enjoy a part of it. You can still see animals that are native to New England, and you'll find, sometimes if you're down on the Cape, like right in your backyard. And, we hope people really enjoy it, and we hope it does kind of pull them in and have them think about, maybe I want to come in and visit and see the rest of the building.
Yeah, one of the things that I really liked when I showed up today was somebody was out there doing an enrichment session just outside the glass. Had a hula hoop type thing and a couple of star spinny things. That's the technical term.
Spinny smart. Things, yeah.
And that he would stick on the glass and spin them. And it was really interesting watching people come up and be like, oh, what are you doing? And I was like, this is so cool. Bunch of people who were not going into the aquarium came running over and got to learn a little bit about enrichment.
Right.
And just got to watch and see that these animals have that going on. And I thought that was really special. Like, it was really cool to just kind of be a fly on the wall watching them, people who might, like you said, weren't coming in or whatever, not just learn about the animals, but get a little glimpse of like, yeah, we put in time, we do stuff, we keep them, enriched. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's really cool and really important.
Yeah, that was probably one of our volunteers. We have a great volunteer and intern program, and it provides a conduit so that if people are out there and want to ask questions, we, or as staff, but also as volunteers and interns, can provide that connection to the work that we're doing here at New England Aquarium. So I just think that exhibit is just phenomenal in that regard, because like you said, they might not have been thinking to come in, but maybe they will think about it the next time they come by.
I mean, it would drag my butt in. I'm a little biased, admittedly, but you really couldn't keep me away anyway. I do think you need a sign out there, though, that just does say, come visit Myrtle.
I know. I get that question so often, and, what's the largest animal you have? What's the oldest animal you have? And both answers are Myrtle, so she is pretty phenomenal. Even when she's just resting in the coral, she's a very, very awesome animal, and I did have the privilege of working with her from time to time. So cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's definitely the matriarch of the building.
Yeah, I always call her the queen of the aquarium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. So I know that you have a session coming up soon, and so is there like a conservation organization you'd like to give a shout out to?
Is it selfish to shout out our own?
No.
So we have the Anderson Cabot Center for Ocean Life, and they do a ton of work from all different areas, from right whales to sustainable seafood. And so there's work that I'm not even aware of, but we've had a great opportunity over the past few years to really collaborate. So we're working with one staff member there who's helping us with our hydrophone study for the harbor seal exhibit. And so having that opportunity to learn more about the work that they're doing and have them come in and help us with our animals is great. So I think that's probably an untapped resource that people don't know much about, because most of that work is out in the field, so they can't necessarily see it in hand in the building, but there's tons of great work happening within that center.
Very cool.
It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show, but there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
So we dive our exhibits not only to suck up poop, but also to clean algae and check on the conditions of different things in the exhibit. And so our animals are in that space at the same time. They're trained to just leave us alone, and we leave them alone. But if it's raining on your head and you're in water, it's probably not a good thing. And so I've definitely had it happen where I was diving and all of a sudden there's these like brown pieces of debris that start filtering down because they cruised above and went to the bathroom.
Oh.
Fortunately, we have showers very close by.
Yes, the showers are an essential part of any aquarium.
Yes.
Okay, well, I used to work with some of the walrus at SeaWorld of Ohio. We had two of them, George and Brutus, two males, and they loved to roll in their poop. So when you came in the morning, it was all over the walls, it was all over the floor, and it was all over them. And you'd have to hose the area for about an hour and a half with your nose plugged. So walrus poop is one of the stinkiest that I've ever encountered, for sure. So there's my poop story.
That's amazing.
I was a brand new trainer, too, so that was always what I was assigned to do. I was on poop duty.
Oh.
It's a rite of passage.
I like it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Hi, Diane.
This is Reggae.
Those are my feet.
Hi, guys. So this is our big guy. Say hi. Good. He trained me to be a trainer, so
That's
it's really
amazing.
Privileged to be able to work with him on some things. But he'll love you too. Good boy.
Look at
And
these
then this is
faces.
Diane. Yeah,
Hi,
she's
Diane.
definitely a beautiful, beautiful harbor seal.
She is.
And you can see just the difference in size between the two of them. For their heads are so different in size. Good.
They really are.
Good job. So one thing that we're conditioning with our animals, which seems like a given, but really we haven't worked on essentially, until recently, is patience. So I'm just going to sit here. You can just sit here. You don't have to offer anything. So we actually will take that target away once they've established themselves. Just hang out. Good. And just be patient. Good.
That's really
just
cool.
like that.
Yeah. I like that.
Because for our meet and greet, we offer like about a 15-minute presentation. We want these animals to be really calm with that space too. Hold it. Good, Rex. You want to get your picture taken? Yes.
Oh, that's so good. Look at that face.
Good. Kiss.
Oh my gosh.
Good. Good, Cayenne. Your fish is a little frosty. Let me rinse it off for you. There you go. So they have their preferences for sure. They don't like fish that's really like frosty, so they'll play with it a little more. We work on their healthcare behaviors as their primary thing here. So being able to take a look at their body. So you can see she's got the spots. So that's why she's named Cayenne.
I like it.
And he's actually balding. He's getting into his molt a little bit early this year, so he's losing some of his hair. And harbor seal skin is black, so you can actually see that come through, which is pretty neat.
It's actually a good thing for white sharks that detect predators. They can only exist in the environment.
Good job. Good girl.
I love, like, it's exactly what you said, but like the calmness right now, even when the food is going to be offered,
Not grabbing.
the face nudges up a little bit. There's excitement about it.
Yeah, good.
But it's very calm, and I like that.
You want the excitement to be coming from your relationship with them and not necessarily what's coming from the food. I mean, the food is inherent to their survival, of course, so it's always going to have its own reinforcing value. Good. Cayenne, come around. But I want Reggae to want to hang out because he finds my presence to be so reinforcing as well. Good, Reggae. Good. Cayenne here. Good. One up. Oh, you're going to come too? All right. So we'd like to ask him in different spaces too. So Reggae decided he was going to come on deck. The goal is to have Cayenne come up. We'll switch him up. Good, Regs. Water. Good dismount. Good, Kai. Here. Nice. Good.
They are just the cutest.
Sometimes in training sessions, it's great to move around in session too and be a little mobile. So that's also one of our goals with these animals. So in the past, we were a little more static in where we fed them. So you can see I just asked them to kind of flip-flop their locations. Right? Good. You did it. Good. For us, communicating to them, we say the word good or we'll blow our whistle, which I won't do to blast out everyone's ears that is listening to this podcast. But communicate's the same thing. You know, you did a great job. Sure. All right, say bye. We'll come back out. Good. So then to let them know they're done, we finish our animals all at the same time, just so there's no competition. And when we give them their last pieces, we just cross our hands in front of our bucket, and they know that that's it. And then we can take a break and come back and do a session in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, in 20 minutes. It's really good to have that be a variable component of their day too.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So we have different targets for different animals so they can identify them. So we switched up the training session. So it's Chakotay and his target, Amelia and hers. Good. You can see they've been able to find that, and that helps so that we don't have 5 trainers calling 5 harbor seal names. Good job, you guys.
That makes sense.
Good. So Amelia, as we mentioned, she has one eye, but you can see that her remaining eye is wide open, so she uses that to pick up on light.
Even if she occasionally pretends she can't see what
Even
you're
if she
doing.
pretends she can't see, which you may get to observe in the training session. And then they also use their whiskers. So if you want to put your hand out in a closed fist and just move your hand around a little bit, you'll see that he follows you.
Nice.
And Chakotay's just sensing, good, where your hand is going. And then that helps us shape a new behavior. So we can move their heads in different motions. Good job. Nice. Good. Now, his claim to fame, as we talked about, is his vocalizations.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask him to show that off. Talk. Good job.
That picked up perfectly.
So you can imagine if you heard that down the plaza at night, you might not really know what's happening. He's definitely, I'm sure, scared a child or two. But for him, that's a very cool thing to do, and we love it. And
That is
so
very cool.
Trainers in the past shaped that sound to sound like a word. So we'll see if he wants to demonstrate that. Listen. How are you? Good. So he missed the R in that a little bit. And so then we decide, okay, do we want to ask for that again? He's usually successful on the second one, so we'll try it one more time. Listen. How are you? Good job, buddy.
So good.
Good boy. Good. You have your unique characteristics too, don't you? Good girl. Salute.
Aw.
Good. Most of our signals are paired with a hand signal and a verbal.
Mm-hmm.
All of our harbor seals have actually had cataract surgery and had their cataracts removed. But if they did end up having any kind of eye issue, if they hear the word and know the behavior, then we can also ask for it. So for Chakotay, I could say, window, and he'll head over to the guests. Wave. Good.
Oh my
and then he'll
gosh.
wave at the
And
guests.
did you see that woman's face? You just made her whole day.
And that's what I
mean,
love about this exhibit. I mean,
That's
I don't know if they're
amazing.
coming into the aquarium. Hopefully they are, but if they're not, they just got a really cool experience. So.
Yeah. Dude was definitely like, okay, I need to get her a seal meet and greet at some
Yes,
point. Like,
yes.
literally, she melted. That was amazing. And you never know. One of the things that I always love telling people from my perspective is you never know what impact you're having
Right.
on people like
Right.
that. Because all of the people who talked to me early on, before I started Rossifari, are why I did. And none of them know that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just amazing. You never know what impact you're going to have on someone.
And you never know like what kind of day they're having. So
Yeah.
to see that just really brighten their day is pretty phenomenal. Good. Now they have some pretty sweet dance moves, so we'll show
Okay.
that off. All right, ready guys? Let's show me dancing. Good, Chuck. That was impressive, buddy. Good boy. Nice job. Good. Can I have Amelia come up on the rock? Okay. Water? Good. I'm going to have her come over here so you can get a little time with Chakotah. Good. Come on up, Emil. So she's almost 40 years old. And yes, she has one eye. But aside from that, I just feel like she's just as youthful as she was when I first started working with her.
That's amazing.
And then this handsome guy, if you would like a kiss, you can just lean in and give him your cheek or get a kiss smack on the mouth, which I highly recommend. Good.
Thank you.
Good job,
You're
buddy.
trouble, I can tell.
Good. He is. Good girl. Good, Amelia. Nice. Good. Want to show me your toe? Good. And we take a full look at our animals every day. So we review their eyes, their teeth, ask them to open their mouth. We want everybody to be really familiar. Sure. So we'll help them, if they do have tartar or plaque that build up, we brush their teeth. In the wild, it's really the live fish and the scales that are on those live fish moving around that we think helps break that feature up.
Okay.
So we were talking about an innovate signal where they can offer whatever they want. So our signal looks like this, and we just say different. So she offered a head nod. He went to the water. That counts. Let's see what else. Different. He checked out the window. She waved. Good.
Nice. Oh, that's so cool.
Good, Chuck. And then, like you said, sometimes, a brand new behavior will come of it. So you never know. Different.
Right.
Good. Good, Amelia. Good job. So she did a cool head nod, and he offered a wave. Copy. Good job, you guys. All right, let's see if you want to offer your other vocal. Listen. Hey. Good. Listen. Hey. Hey. Good one. Nice
That is
job.
not a seal noise.
So I'm going to give him a squid for that, which is one of
That's
his
so
favorite
cool.
fish.
Nice.
Lets him know that was perfect, super clear, and then hopefully the next time a trainer asks for it, they'll get that same excellent response from him.
That was super good.
And then we give them Jell-O in their sessions, not only for the hydration, but also to add some additional reinforcing value to something. So sometimes it's a toy, sometimes it's Jell-O, other times, of course, they're fish. Good job, buddy.
Do you do hydration primarily through like smelt and other fish, or do you do it primarily through Jell-O?
Yeah, primarily through their fish. In the wild, they get all the water they need from their food. So
Right.
here, it's the same.
Cool.
Good job. I
Oh,
have
that
one
was a
left,
messy
Allison.
squid.
Yeah. Good job, you two. All right, you want to say bye to John? Good. And so again, we try and finish them all up right at the same time.
Yep.
Good job. And then you can see her very graceful dismount, all gone. And then off they go. And because harbor seals can hold their breath, we tend to find that after these training sessions, they'll go take a rest for a while underwater and come back up when they're ready.
Makes sense.
All gone, buddy. Have a great afternoon.
Oh, hello. Hi.
And guests often ask, well, when they come back, can I ask for a behavior? And we make sure that they understand that if we don't have anything more reinforcing for them, we won't ask them to do a
Right.
behavior, because we want to make sure that they know what a great job they did.
Of course. Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you for this.
You're welcome.
This was fun.
That
that was fun. You know, I have to admit, there are certain, I mean, I get to do a lot of really cool things with this podcast, but there are certain habitats that just I saw when I was like growing up and then learning about this world, that getting to be on the other side of them is extra special. And the seal habitat at New England Aquarium is definitely one of those. Every time I've ever been to Boston, I have gone there. And if you would have ever told me I would have been on the other side of that glass, I would not have understood why I would get to be so lucky. And it turns out that we found a way to do it, and it's pretty cool. That was really special. There was a mild concern that I was going to fall into the water and embarrass myself at one point, but that was just my own brain. But you know, whatever. It went well. Everything's cool. Makes me happy. So with all of that said, I'd love to thank y'all for listening to this episode. I'd especially love to thank my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, and Kevin Williams. And to remind y'all to be back here on Friday for a brand new episode of Rossifari Zoo News that's actually going to be being recorded out in Kansas as we're on a fun little exciting trip out there. So look forward to telling y'all more about that on Friday. But until then, remember, friends, the word credits backwards is Steiderk.
The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.